Hi everyone. Okay, I'm feeling mighty awkward right now, but only because I gotta take this off a little more. Because as you can see, I'm in a different place than I usually am. I'm over at Manny's parents' house, and he's living there right now. And well, this is the only place where I could, sorry, find a place to set this up. And you're sitting on a box on the mini tripod. And I'm in a bathroom, it's very echoey, and I'm pretty sure everyone can really hear me. And if you can hear other noises, like, I don't know, some like TV and such, that's his dad's TV, and occasionally maybe his, because like his room is like right across from us that way. His dad is down there. So yeah. Yeah. I'm also trying not to look at my viewfinder and trying to look at you, but it's still awkward because the actual thing, like, see, I'm pointing at you, is lower than where my eyes would like normally just sit. So yeah. So yeah, so book review at the top. I just finished An Accidental Woman by Delinsky. And yes, so it is backwards to me right now because I haven't done a book review on this camera. So yeah, it's gonna be backwards to me while I'm filming this. Yes, I just finished this book, and literally it is due at the library this Tuesday. So like today's the 15th of April, and it's due on the 18th. Because this is an interlibrary loan, so this is not even part of my library system. It's part of a separate library system. So, you know, like the Toronto Public Library, this is like, for example, this is part of the New York Public Library system sort of thing. So like, I live in Toronto, and the interlibrary thing, this may have come from like New York. That's a huge really gap, but that's the best example I can give. But yeah, this was an enjoyable read. Again, it took me 3 weeks, and well, I don't like it when Manny is talking to me when I'm reading, because it pulls me out when I'm, but whatever. But other than that, it was very enjoyable. I did really like it. This one had a lot more for me that I love. And as I told you, this is a story about Heather and Micah and Poppy and Griffin. And it's a lot about, I'm having a hard time, let's see. But it's, you know, about the fact of Heather's past. She's never really talked about her past. Like, the past I'm referring to is, like, she arrived in Lake Henry, and she's never really said anything about anything previous to that, any of her life with like her father, where she grew up, what school she went to, her dating life to then. She hasn't really said anything of that. And Poppy, yeah, I don't know, but we know, like, bleh, I'm having an awkward time, that, you know, like, the FBI is, thinks she's someone else, and there are certain times where she says stuff. She, like, once the FBI came, like, literally in the first chapter, she kind of basically clams up, and she's not saying anything. And it's because she's worried that the stuff about her past, she's worried that the man, Micah, is not going to love her, or her friends are not going to love her anymore because of what happened. And she's worried because of the stuff from her past may affect what is happening, like, right now. So I love a lot of that backstory and backstory and like someone's past and bringing it all, like finding out all this information of like why you did this and why you did that and how this happened because of something in the past that happened. And I love all that information, and they did it in a way, she did it in a way, Barbara, that, you know, it was, you got something every few chapters. It wasn't like the halfway point where it was like you started to get a lot of information, unlike when I was reading, you know, like Henry, the book, the first book, that you know, you kind of started getting all that sort of backstory information about, you know, in the second half of the book. This, you get, it sort of progressively starts happening in like the second fourth of the book. The first fourth of the book, the first fourth part of the book. Sorry, my eyes are like, they're getting ready for me to wash my face off, so. You don't get a whole lot because I think she wanted to play it as like mystery, and so, yeah. But like that was one of the parts I really loved. I loved finding about the back history of like the about Heather and her being mistaken as this person called Lisa. And just every time I got a bit of a nugget of information about her back, I was like, oh my god, I live for this stuff half the time. I live for it because I love this stuff. I love it when it happens. Oh, sorry, my eyes. I'm gonna keep doing it and be bugged by my eyes. I am. I gotta wash it off. But I love that stuff. I love reading about it. It is like, for me, the best part of when I read sort of like mystery type things, mystery type books, when there's like, you know, something happened and there's just like this investigation of sorts within the book. It's just the best part of when I read those type of books. This is not, I don't think Barbara Delinsky is much of a romance novelist. I don't know, because again, the romance sort of, like these two relationships, the romance sort of was already established, at least with Heather and Micah. They were already in love. They had been living together for 4 years. And no, they had no children. They were not married. And Heather's past was preventing her from doing that. But, you know, yes. But with Poppy and Griffin, they, after the first book, it's like 3 months. This is 3 months, set 3 months after the first book. This is only a duology, which is interesting. But they have had, Poppy and Griffin sorta had been dating, sorta dating. I can't really say what exactly it was they were doing, but she basically pushed him away. And then, you know, he comes back and, you know, these sparks come back again, and he's actually just one of the sweetest guys I have read. Just accepting of a lot of stuff, but, you know, he does put out that I do have my own needs and wants too, but I want it together stuff. He's just really sweet and accepting and very giving, but at the same, as I said, at the same time, he you know, he wants his own stuff. He has his own needs and such like that. He was great. I really loved him. Like, his personality was like, yeah. And I love the story, the way the whole story flowed. It was really great. But the one thing that kept throwing me a little bit, especially when I was here with Manny and trying to read, because this is a library book and I need to finish it, and it's not just my library, it is an interlibrary loan, so if I haven't taken it back by its due date, or like, you know, before its due date, I am charged major bucks for this, so I need to finish it and I need to shut up, pretty much. But I got it finished, and I had 3 weeks with it. Anyway, listen, I love the story, and the characters that you got to read about, like the basic 4 ones that I said, but a lot of the other characters come back. You get some interactions with like Lily and John, not too much, because they're not the main focus, but they're a little, like, there's 2 moments that I can think of where they are in the story. Mainly Lily, when she's basically the one talking in the story. Maida comes back, their mother, Lily and Poppy's mother. She actually does some growing in this, and the information that she told Lily in the previous book, she's told to Poppy now about her past, and she's still like the weird person that is worried about people finding about the past and like making an embarrassment of her and just like putting their family in the limelight and making a spectacle of them and all that such, which is like, I can't even, like, there are moments, some moments, not as much as in the first book, as I said, has gotten better in this one, are moments where I just want to flip and smack her, because she's just, ugh. But she does get better. It's a progression. And Lily and Poppy's youngest sister, Rose, who is like almost like a carbon copy of their mother, of how she used to be. Hopefully, as she gets older, she changes. But you know, in these 2 books, she's kind of a bitch. Okay, she kind of is. She's not that nice, and she makes Lily and Poppy feel pretty guilty. Yeah. But I wish there was actually a 3rd book. There is not, according to the website that I use, and I'll link it down below. It has all of her books, and it also shows all, like, you know, like put it into like all the series that it's put in. So like this and Lake Henry are only a duology, so there's only 2 books there. I don't know, it hasn't been updated, so I don't know if she's ever done a 3rd book. It would be nice to actually have a 3rd book where it talks about Rose and, you know, the possibility of Art, her husband, you know, the possibility of him, you know, like a divorce or something like that, just because of the way she is, and she's just like, just so that she has her own story and how like she needs to grow and she needs to grow up and stop being kind of so nasty the way she is in this book, in both of the books. And there were some points in her writing that I didn't like. It was just a little weird for me to read. But it hasn't deterred me. It didn't deter me. It was only in like the second half of the book where there were some moments where it's like, the way it was phrased in the sentence, and sometimes I feel like it should have been like a separate sort of like when you hit, like, it should have been like the next paragraph of sorts, so it should have been hit enter and tab, so like it's a break in it. There was, as I said, it's very few moments of that just in the second half, but other than that, it was really good writing. It flowed very well, and the story flowed very well, the whole plot of it. There were basically two storylines going on, with a 3rd one right in the middle of it. So the first 2, say, is like there's Heather and Micah. It's really Micah's story, but it's about them and how he is going through all of this, and it's in the span of 3 weeks, because Heather is being held in a prison for a month before a warrant is basically coming down to New Hampshire to extradite her back to California for a trial for stuff that Lisa is being charged with. And it's all in third person, but there's 4 different sort of storylines. So, you know, with Micah and like just, yeah. So we've got Micah, and I think it's Micah. It's Micah, and I probably pronouncing it wrong. I think it's Micah or Mika. I don't know how to pronounce it. If you know how to pronounce it, please leave in the comments below, because I am clearly not pronouncing it right. I do not feel like I'm pronouncing it right, so just let me know in the comments below. He was an interesting character. He's not my favorite. There were some moments there that I really liked, and that was like, aw, you're a sweet dad, you're a sweet guy. But because of the whole situation of like his lover and best friend and all that such is, you know, being accused of murder and being held in jail, and right now in the story, it's the maple sugar season. Like this, it's during the month of March, where the maple sugar is the maple sap is being sapped from the trees and then is made into maple sugar and maple syrup sort of thing. Like it's his favorite season. He's a contractor every other time, but his favorite one is, you know, making maple syrup and such like that. And because of Heather, she changed it to make it better, but at the same time, he needed her help for a lot of stuff, because it was basically the 2 of them doing a lot of this stuff before this point, and then throughout the story he gets help from other people like Griffin. I liked reading about the process of making maple syrup, but his thing of doing about it, they put it in cans, and I don't know about that. I don't know. It makes more sense to put it in a bottle and like with a squeeze top and such like that. But whatever. But it said the process and how they used to do it in olden times compared to what they do it nowadays, and that it is like a family business, and it's not, they don't hire out other people most of the time. It's usually like the family, like the father and daughters and sons and like uncles and cousins and that sort of thing. It stays in the family. They don't source it out. And apparently when they first started, they didn't take slaves for doing all of this. That was interesting to find out. That was not my favorite part of reading the book. My favorite part was reading sort of like Poppy and Griffin's point of view. Now, I should probably get into this right now, but before I get into that stuff, is that it has 4 different points of views, all in third person. So you kind of know who all is. Like, this is sort of from his point of view and her point of view and such like that. But it's in third person, but it's like a point of view in third person. And it distracted me a little bit every time, because there were so many breaks and so many like different parts. But it kind of made sense. But at the same time, it was a little awkward and frustrating. And I definitely think if someone does not like many point of views, they might not like this book because of that, because it was a little annoying. And if they do not like it, they probably will be severely annoyed by this book, because, as I said, I just talked about Micah, and then there's Poppy's point of view. We go through what she does, and like, you know, like we have Micah and Griffin and other people, like, they're in her point of view, but it's always sort of, as I said, from her third person point of view. It's really weird. Like, I can understand having doing like your male and female protagonists, like their third person point of views, or like their own like first person point of views during the book. But yeah, but I liked reading Poppy's and her journey, it wasn't that she had like a bad past. Like we kind of already knew about her past, but she didn't really want to talk about it, didn't want to acknowledge it because she's a paraplegic. So she is, if you don't know what it is, most people would know what that word means, but they are basically numb, or their nerves are dead from like the hips down. At least her diagnosis, because there's another quadriplegic, which is from the neck down. So like all you can really do is move your head and that sort of stuff. But sometimes like I think sometimes it's from the hips down. So like you have no like function, like you can't control what your bowels do, or like your sex, you can't really feel sex, I'm guessing. Yeah, but she knows how to go to the bathroom herself. She can feel that she needs to go, and she can feel the orgasm when she has sex. So it was interesting to see her journey, and her journey is really of forgiveness and forgiving herself for what happened. I'm not going to spoil all of what happened, but you know the general gist of, like, as I said, she's a paraplegic, one of those two phrases, pronunciations, but she got that way from a snowmobiling accident. And that's as much as I'm going to tell you. And so, yeah, yes. And it's her journey of like self-forgiveness, because everyone is like very sympathetic and like they've already forgiven her for most of the people, not her sister and her mother technically, but her mother, as I said, she gets better. And I really liked her. I really liked her personality. I like her, I relate to her in like her sexual way because, well,
I don't orgasm when I have sex with a dude. I actually have to masturbate to actually feel an orgasm. I said that, and yes, you know, live my sex life.
Well, my camera likes to stop recording for some reason. That's annoying. I wish it would actually make noise, because it makes noise when I turn it on, and then, yeah. So I don't know what I was talking about. But I'll say that I relate to Poppy. I relate to Poppy on her sexual level. Is like she, you know, people, her disability is like from the lower hips down, because she can't move her legs, but she controls her own bladder, her bowel, her butt, her, you know, her pooing, and her sexual drive. Like she can feel all that, but she can't move her legs. And I relate to her on a sexual level because she's nervous that the fact that she wouldn't be able to feel anything sexually. Yeah, and I want to apologize that I'm not very enthusiastic, mainly because I'm out of my element and there's a lot more people in this house that I can hear them and they can hear me because I'm in a bathroom. It's quite echoey in here. Yeah, but I really only loved the part that, you know, all the back history and the Heather's past. I love all the tidbits that you slowly get information about. It was like that's the greatest part of the book for me, as I said like at the beginning. And then we have a third point of view of Griffin, where what he's doing and who he's interacting with, again, on third person. And he's a city boy coming in to live there for 3 weeks with, in like, what's the term? Unfamiliar territory, I think that's the term. And because he's a reporter in a sense, he's a freelance writer, but when you were introduced to him in the first book, he wanted to write an article about people being falsely accused of stuff like Lily was, and just, you know, all the privacy that is taken away from them. He wanted to write an article about all that stuff, and at the time, the most prevalent thing that was going on was Lily's predicament. So, and as I already said, I love his personality. It's so great. I love him. Yeah, I already said I like that. And the way he thinks about stuff and the way he does stuff it was interesting to read. But I really liked, and yeah, my favorite parts about reading this book was Poppy and Griffin's point of view, third person point of views. That's just weird to say. Because when you say a point of view, it's literally, you get their thoughts and like what they're doing and what they're saying, but you don't really get the other people that they're interacting with, what their thoughts are, what they're feeling. You really only see like the person's point of view that they're reading, that you only get the person they're interacting with, what said person you're reading, what they can visibly see is what they're doing. Like they can sort of read what's in their eyes or like what their body's doing, if they can see that they're visibly shaking and such like that. It's hard to say that. Ugh. And then we have a fourth point of view, which is in the point of view of Cassie, or Cassandra is her full name. And she is a lawyer and head of the committee of the entire town of Lake Henry. And she takes on the case, like Heather's case of like her defendant and such. Heather and Cassie, Poppy and Cassie are Heather's best friend, and so all that such. So we get, oh boy, my camera got hot, so it turned off. But I was basically talking about Cassie and the fact that Poppy and Cassie are Heather's best friend, and Cassie is a lawyer. That's what her job is, but in town she was nominated as this, like, the high town committee, where she's the one who has to write up all the important papers and set up meetings, whatever. She's basically the lawyer right now. That's what we're going to refer to as. It was interesting to read her point of view, but I didn't feel like we needed her point of view all the time. Like, if she came into the point of views of like Micah or Poppy or Griffin, that was great. It was nice to have to, you know, she basically comes into there and basically tells the information that needs to be said at said points. But my camera got hot and it likes to turn off by itself apparently. So I opened the window because it brings cool, more air in. And it's gonna be annoying because of all the cuts in this video, and I really just wanted this to make, you know, a big long thing and not, you know, oh, whatever. I am talking a lot, so, because I am awkward and feeling awkward. If I was doing this at home, I probably would feel a little less awkward, but yeah, I'm doing it here because I finished it here, and I literally, you know, so it was interesting, but we didn't really need to have Cassie's point of view. She could have just come into the other people's point of view, basically said the information that on her end of the legal stuff that needed to be added to the story could have just been brought into the other three. And then there was this one point of one of the characters that is part of the story, and they reveal information that's just a little mind-blowing. I gasped and was like, oh my god, is that for real? Sort of situation. And like Manny's just like, what's going on? And I tell him what happened. So that person gets one little break. Like, there's always a bunch of breaks with little 3 asterisks to separate them. She had one little break in the entire thing, and I don't know why. It was weird. She it's a she, and she did not need it. I don't know why. It's not like it really added anything to the story. Like, it did really nothing to the story. It didn't add anything. But the times when she was in other people's point of views, yes, that added to the story. But she did not need her own little point of view, little paragraph section. That's really the only thing that I did not like about the story, other than like where like some words were placed, what the phrasing of the sentence was, and where things should have been like, they should have been like the next paragraph sort of thing. But all in all, I did enjoy this book, and I would recommend reading it. It was enjoyable. It's not my favorite. As I said, I'm keeping Lake Henry, and I'm just going to write in my own book the fact that this is the second book, and if I want to get this book, I can go buy it if I want. And just to let you know, this is a hardcover. It's not like a traditional hardcover where it has a jacket, and it's also not a large print, because traditionally large prints are like this, where they have no dust jacket. But yes, but this was enjoyable. I did like it, so I would recommend reading it, but I wouldn't recommend to those people who don't like multiple point of views. Don't read this, because you probably will get frustratingly pissed off. Yeah. But if you like Barbara Delinsky, she's really good. She's not a romance author, I have to say that. I thought she was, because she wrote a book called The Stud, and I will have that review link down below if I have one. But I know I did read that one. I had 2 of her books, 3. I know I had that one plus Lake Henry. I don't know if you can hear this, but Manny is watching something, and I'm like, what the fuck are you watching? But anyway, that was this book review, my weird book review. I'm sorry, but as I told you, I am feeling awkward right now with the echoing, and like his parent. He's at his parents' house. He lives here until we're able to move out. So I'm going to move on to the next book I'm reading. It's one of my books from my collection, and it is Beauty Sleep by Cameron Doke. Yes, it is another Cameron Doke book, and it's part of the Once Upon a Time retelling books. This is her second book in that series. As I told you, as the previous video, she wrote the first book in that series, The Storyteller's Daughter, which is a retelling of 1001 Nights, or the Arabian Nights, or however you want to say it. It's the one where the king basically takes a wife every night, and in the morning she basically, so my camera just got hot again, but her first book is, the king takes a wife at that night, and in the morning he kills her. And then he meets this woman, and, basically she tells him a story every night, but leaves him hanging. Like, basically there's a cliffhanger to the story, and it's like, I'll have to tell you more the next night. And basically she tells him a different story that night, I think, because there's like a bunch of stories. And that's what the Storyteller's Daughter book is based on, and I'll have that review linked down below. This is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty. This one was actually one of the first books I read about, the whole Once Upon a Time retelling. This was the first book I read by Cameron Doke. The first book I read by Cameron Doke was How Not to Spend Your Senior Year, which is just a contemporary teen novel. This is a fantasy, a fairy tale teen book. And this, I actually really loved this story. This is actually a reread for me, technically. I haven't read it in a very long time. So, yes, and it's part of the original collection. I love these book covers. They're like the prettiest things I've ever seen. But yeah, This is a, where is it? Gonna focus? Yes, A Charmed Life. And the back is like this if you didn't see it before. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna read. A little princess, lovely as the dawn, well named Aurora. With these seemingly innocent words, the fate of a newborn princess is sealed. And I'm gonna keep looking up just to make sure it's still recording and such. For years, the king and queen despaired of ever having a child. When Aurora arrives, though the entire kingdom celebrates, not all are overjoyed. They use her christening as an occasion for revenge, and her young life is overshadowed by a curse of death almost as soon as it has begun. Those who can intervene, but evil has a way of holding fast. A sleep of 100 years following the pricking of a finger is the best that can be done. So Aurora grows up, forbidden princess-like tasks of embroidery and sewing. She explores the great outdoors, reveling in the flora and fauna that surround her castle home. Then one day she meets a handsome stranger in an enchanted wood and begins an adventure the likes of which she never dreamed of. This is the story of the Sleeping Beauty. Here, quite awake and given new voice, haunted by fate, Aurora soon learns that although she cannot sidestep her own destiny, love itself is actually the most powerful magic of all. Yeah, I didn't read that right because I was paying attention to, the fact that to keep it recording. And, if it, decides that I'm way too hot right now. And then, I can open the book. Damn. There's this, like a little snippet from the inside of the book. But I'm not going to read that because it's going to make it longer than it needs to be. And then there's that. That's just that stuff, and then there's chapters. They don't have chapter names. Other than like that scene. We're gonna focus. Yes, we're focusing. And then it has that one. Focus, focus. We're gonna focus on the words. Here we go. And then I have, that's my book, right? Bookmark. My bookmark. It's like a Franken dog. It's got numerous legs. And what's at the back? Can I show you? And then it's got a like the back thing here. It's got one for the next book. This is actually, I believe, book 3 in the Once Upon a Time series. The second book, if I know, it's actually Snow. Actually, no, it's not. Oh, yes. It's not by Elizabeth J. Braswell. It's actually by a woman called Tracy. Tracy. I can't remember her last name, but it's Tracy. And it's a fabulous book. I love it, but it is called Snow, but it's, it's not by that author at the end that was written there. Can I show you? Tracy Lynn, there it is. Come on, focus. That's the best we can do, but it's by Tracy Lynn. That's who it was, Tracy Lynn. It was one of the best Snow White retellings that I've ever read, and I love it. I can't wait to reread that again. And that's it, so this is my next book. I may read a little bit here while Manny's playing this game, but that's the next book I gotta read. And I gotta order, what is it? I have a bunch of stuff, like the Betsy Johnson stories. I completely forgot that there's more after my book, which is book 6. What else? And I have a book called, Her Scoundrel. Yeah, Her Scoundrel, and it's within this series by a woman that I can't remember. And there's a bunch of books previous to that, so I gotta find out if my library has it, or I gotta do interlibrary loans. And just, I've got other stuff that I don't personally have, but I need to get it for my library, so I'm gonna get going because this is not really awkward. and I just want to go relax, okay? And yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit that like button down there. And if you have any comments about the book, about my weirdness, you can leave it in the comments below. Just don't be nasty, don't be negative, don't be bullying, because we do not need that in the world, okay? We do not need nastiness, alright? Alright. And if this is the first time you're watching my video, hit that big red subscribe button down there by my picture for more book reviews, hauls, unboxing, unbagging, because something's coming in a bubble wrap manila envelope or a plastic bag wrapped thingy. Vlogmas, random vlogs, and random videos that I have no idea where to categorize. Okay, I will see you all in my next video. Hopefully it's at home and less awkward. Good night, everyone.